Starting in January 2022, you'll be able to get micro-credentials from the Society of Actuaries that will recognize your skills and knowledge in certain areas. You can even add these micro-credentials to your resume, and you can talk about them during interviews. Intriguing, isn't it? Well, you're going to learn all about them in today's video. So in last week's video, I talked about 3 of the 4 upcoming changes to the Society of Actuaries associateship pathway. And this pathway basically represents all the different qualifications that you need to meet in order to obtain an associateship from the Society of Actuaries. There's a lot of changes coming up to this pathway, and in today's video we're talking about the 4th big change. So if you haven't heard about the other 3, make sure you go and watch last week's video at the end of this video, and I will point you to where to go to find that at the end too. Okay, so let's get into it. The 4th big change coming to the ASA pathway is change to the FAP modules. So if you're not familiar with these, basically the FAP modules help aspiring actuaries understand the fundamentals of the actuarial practice. And these modules consist of 8 different modules that you have to take and pass in order to achieve your ASA designation. Now, the big news is that they're actually going to be reducing it to 5 different modules, but the other 3 that are going away are going to be taken over by what the SOA is calling e-learning modules. So there are going to be 2 new e-learning modules that will replace the previous FAP modules 1, 2, and 4. Typically, FAP modules are completed close to the end of someone's journey to obtaining the ASA designation. So they're typically passed after you've done all the other examinations that you need to complete in order to get your ASA designation. But now, with these e-learning modules, you'll actually be able to take some of these courses earlier on in your actuarial journey, and they'll help you to get these micro-credentials that the Society of Actuaries is now going to be crediting aspiring actuaries with. So here's how it's going to work. Currently, there are 8 modules in the FAP modules. So module 1 and 2 are going to be removed. They are going to become the new pre-actuarial foundations e-learning module. The SOA will recommend that you take this e-learning module after you've passed exam P and FM, and this module will focus a lot on communication skills. If you haven't watched my video where I talk about the 100 entry-level actuarial job study that I did, one of the big findings that came from that study was that actuarial employers really want candidates with excellent communication skills. So this new module is really going to help you develop your communication skills so that you're really able to take complex concepts that actuaries are working with day to day and explain them to people that may not be familiar with the actuarial work that we do as actuaries. And then module 4 of the current FAP modules is going to become the Actuarial Foundations e-learning module. Now, the SOA is going to recommend that you take this module after you've passed exam P, FM, SRM, and FAM. FAM is a brand new exam that I talked about in last week's video, so I will make sure to link to that at the end of this video so you can go learn all about that if you haven't heard about it yet. This Actuarial Foundations e-learning module is going to focus on how to deal with subjective questions. As actuaries, there are a lot of questions out there that there's not a right or a wrong answer, and there's a lot of different ways to interpret those questions. So this module will help you figure out how to deal with those types of questions. It sounds like there's going to be a timed assessment at the end of each of these 2 e-learning modules, and what that means is that you're going to have to download the assignment, and there will be a certain number of hours or maybe days until you have to submit the assignment. It will be completely online. If it's anything like the FAP modules, you may actually have to have a fully qualified actuary watch you go through the submission process to ensure that it's really you and your work that is being submitted. So here's the reason why they're making these big changes to the FAP modules. The answer is micro-credentials. Micro-credentials are completely new to the Society of Actuaries. With micro-credentials, you'll be able to complete a small group of related qualifications, and once that group of qualifications is completed, you'll get recognition from the Society of Actuaries for your expertise and knowledge in certain areas, like data science, for example. These micro-credentials will probably also be recognized by actuarial employers, your team members when you're working in an actuarial role, and possibly even employers outside of the actuarial field. So now let's take a deeper look at what I actually mean by micro-credentials. And I should have mentioned earlier, there will be 3 micro-credentials that you could get from the Society of Actuaries. We'll go through them now. Okay, so the first micro-credential will be called the Pre-Actuarial Foundations Micro-Credential. So in order to get this one, you're going to have to pass the new Pre-Actuarial Foundations e-learning module that we talked about earlier. You're also going to have to get credit for exam P and FM, along with your Econ VEE credit and your Accounting and Finance VEE credit. So all 5 of these credentials combined together will create the new Pre-Actuarial Foundations Micro-Credential. When you get this micro-credential, you'll be able to add it to your resume and talk about it with employers during your interviews to demonstrate your overall understanding of pre-actuarial foundations. So the next micro-credential is called the Actuarial Science Foundations Micro-Credential. And in order to get this one, you're going to already have to have the Pre-Actuarial Foundations Micro-Credential, plus you're going to have to pass the new Actuarial Foundations e-learning module that we talked about earlier. You'll have to pass exam SRM and exam FAM, which again I talked about in last week's video and I will link to at the end of this video as well. In addition to all that, you'll also have to pass the Math Statistics VEE credit. Once you get all 5 of these credentials, you will have the Actuarial Science Foundations Micro-Credential. And by the way, you may have to apply to these or something. I'm not 100% sure how that's going to work yet. Now, the third micro-credential that you can get is the Data Science for Actuaries Micro-Credential. Now, for this one, you only have to pass 3 different exams. Those exams are the exam SRM, exam PA, and the new exam ATPA, which again, I talk about in last week's video. I will link to it at the end of this video too, so you can go watch it if you haven't already. Once you get credit for all of those 3 exams, you will be able to apply for or get the Data Science for Actuaries Micro-Credential, and you'll be able to add it to your resume and talk about it with employers. Now, you're probably wondering, what is the timing for all of this? And by the way, if you haven't already liked this video, could you please do that if it has provided you with value? I would greatly appreciate that, and that really helps it spread to other aspiring actuaries so that they can learn about these changes as well. Thank you! So, like I said earlier, the new e-learning modules will be available in January of 2022. And the FAP modules, the 8 FAP modules that are currently available, those will continue to be available all the way until December of 2024. But the thing is, if you have not signed up for those FAP modules by the end of this year, you will not be able to take the FAP modules as they currently are with the 8 modules. Those modules will only be available to anyone that has started them before January of 2022. Anyone that has started them before then will have 3 years to complete them. But if you do not start the FAP modules before January 2022, then what you're going to have to do is take those 2 new e-learning modules, and then you'll also have to pass the current module 3, 5, 6, 7, and 8 in order to get the credits that you need. So there's been a lot of information in this video, so I do want to give you my advice on what I would recommend you do depending on what your situation is right now. So if you are someone that is still very early on in their actuarial journey, has passed 4 or fewer actuarial exams, then I would not worry about this stuff at all. You don't have to worry about signing up for the FAP modules or anything like that, because I do believe that since you will only have 3 years to complete the FAP modules, you're not really going to have enough time to do all of those along with pass all the exams as well. It's going to be a big time crunch. So I would recommend in that situation that you just wait until January 2022 when the new e-learning modules become available. I would also recommend the same thing if you have not started working yet. Most aspiring actuaries decide on whether they're going to go the SOA route or the CAS route, which is the Casualty Actuarial Society, after they start working in their first full-time job. Their job usually indicates what route they'll take. So if you end up not working in a company that wants you to take the Society of Actuaries exams, then you'll probably take the CAS exams, and they don't require these FAP modules at all, so you won't have to worry about them. On the other hand, if you are someone that is fairly close to getting all your exams passed on the Society of Actuaries, or if you're already working in a company that wants you to take the Society of Actuaries exam, then you might want to consider purchasing the FAP modules now, because then you'll have 3 years to complete them. I do believe that from the beginning you'll have 2 years, and then you're able to extend it by a year if you need it. So in total, you'll have up to 3 years to complete those FAP modules. This is my recommendation for you because there will probably be a lot more resources and support online for the FAP modules as they currently are. Very similar to what I talked about in last week's video. With changes, it often becomes a little bit confusing. Not as many people are familiar with what's going on on and you just don't have as much support until an exam has been around for a few years. So that's why if you can take the FAP modules as they currently are, that would probably be the way I recommend you do it. Okay, so if you haven't already heard about the other 3 major changes coming to the ASA pathway, you absolutely need to learn about them, so make sure you go watch last week's video. I will put it right here so you can go watch that now. And also another really good video for you to watch would be my video on the 100 entry-level actuarial job study that I did, where I show you exactly what actuarial employers are looking for in top actuarial candidates. I studied 100 entry-level positions and really figured out all the specifics about what employers want, so that video gives you tons of insight in how to be an amazing candidate. Again, I will link that right here. And if you have any questions about today's video or last week's video or just any questions in general, make sure you ask them down below in the comments. I check them out frequently and will get back to you as soon as I can. That is all. I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.